Because today we're diving headfirst into the world of AI.
And hold on tight, because we're not just talking about the AI that suggests your next binge watch. No,
Oh.
today, it's all about AI agents.
Ah, yes.
These are the real game changers, folks. Systems that are becoming more independent, more, well, autonomous by the minute. And they're popping up everywhere, from, get this, planning your dream vacation to conducting cutting-edge scientific experiments.
It's true.
You with me?
It's mind-blowing stuff, and, it's precisely why I was so jazzed when you sent over this research paper, Visibility into AI Agents. Talk about timely.
Right. It's like they knew we were having this conversation.
It tackles the million-dollar question head-on.
Well, one that's got everyone in their AI-assisted buzzing.
Exactly. How do we ensure that these incredibly powerful AIs are used responsibly?
Responsible AI music to my ears. And you know what I appreciate about this paper?
What's that?
It cuts right to the chase. It acknowledges the elephant in the room, that AI is no longer just a fancy tool.
It's becoming, dare I say, an agent.
An agent acting on our behalf, and not just in some, isolated, controlled environment, but in increasingly complex scenarios out there in the Wild West of the real world.
And this is where things get really interesting. Right?
Oh, it's about to get real.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about asking Alexa to play our favorite tunes anymore.
Yeah, no, this is different.
This is more like handing over the keys to, well, I don't know, a self-driving car.
That's a perfect analogy. And just like we wouldn't hand over those car keys without making sure the driver, in this case, the AI, knows the rules of the road, right? This paper argues we need to make sure these AI agents operate safely and ethically in our world. No crashing into things, no running red lights.
No digital joyrides. But seriously, why is this such a big deal right now? Why this paper? Why today?
Because, my friend, we are on the cusp of an AI explosion. Investment is through the roof, and there's some immense pressure, you can feel it, to get these agents out there in the real world. We're talking commercial applications, maybe even military ones.
Okay, hold on a second. This is sounding a little too sci-fi for me. Don't these things go through rigorous testing before they're let loose on the world?
You'd think so, right, but that's the catch. Traditional testing, it might not cut it when it comes to AI agents.
How so?
Well, you can run simulations until the cows come home, create these perfect little controlled environments. But once these AI agents hit the real world, forget it, the real world, it throws curveballs, throws chaos. The paper drives home this point that once they're out there interacting with all those unpredictable variables, well, let's just say it gets a bit hairy.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. Slightly terrified, but mostly intrigued. So help me wrap my head around this. We've all heard the talk about AI bias, algorithms gone rogue, that kind of thing. But this feels different. We're talking about AI actually making decisions, not just crunching numbers, right?
You hit the nail on the head. It's a fundamental shift. We're moving from AI as a helper, a sort of digital assistant, to AI as a decision maker.
Okay, I'm with you.
Think about it this way. An image classifier, that can spot a cat in a photo, no problem. But an AI agent, that could be the one deciding which cat photos get used in an ad campaign, maybe managing the ad budget, even negotiating with publishers. And all of this with minimal human input.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. So it's not even just about whether the AI is being fair anymore.
Right.
It's about what happens when it's calling the shots in systems that have a direct impact on our lives, our jobs, our infrastructure, the information we consume. The list goes on and on.
Precisely. And this paper, it doesn't shy away from those very real risks that come with this shift towards increasingly, shall we say, agentic AI.
Oh, so let's get into it then. Let's talk risks.
Yeah.
And I'm glad this paper doesn't sugarcoat things, so full disclosure, neither will I.
Good.
We're not talking about some, dystopian future here, folks. We're talking about potential threats that could impact you and me in the here and now.
And that's exactly why this paper is such a crucial read. It doesn't beat around the bush. It gives us this clear, and yeah, I'll say it, a bit unnerving assessment of what could go wrong. And it starts with, well, the possibility of AI agents being used for, let's just say, less than noble purposes, malicious use, as they put it.
Okay, see, that's the one that always gets my spidey senses tingling. I mean, we've already seen how AI can be used to create deepfakes, generate spam, all sorts of shady stuff. But this feels different, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like handing bad actors a whole new arsenal of tools that are constantly learning, evolving, becoming more powerful by the day.
It's a sobering thought, and the paper brings up a truly chilling possibility. AI agents making something like bioweapons development, something that once required sophisticated labs, vast knowledge, accessible to, well, pretty much anyone.
Well, man, are you saying
Imagine a world where creating a dangerous virus is as simple as, I don't know, writing a few lines of code, feeding it to an AI agent, and then boom.
I mean, that's pretty terrifying.
The level of threat we're talking about here is significant. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, yeah. Officially freaked out now.
Yeah.
But, it's not just about those extreme scenarios, those worst-case scenarios that we need to be thinking about, right?
Right.
The paper also raises a really important concern about something they call over-reliance on AI. What's that all about?
So picture this. AI is managing our finances. It's optimizing energy grids. It's maybe even making medical diagnoses. It's tempting, isn't it, to just sit back, relax, and let the algorithms do their thing. Especially, when they appear to be doing a pretty darn good job. But here's the thing. The paper cautions us against becoming overly dependent on these systems, on systems that, let's be honest, we may not fully understand,
Yeah.
especially when they're the ones making critical decisions that affect our lives.
Right, right. It's like, I don't know, relying solely on your GPS while driving. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, it gets you where you need to go, no problem. But what happens when it, accidentally navigates you straight into a lake?
Exactly.
You got to stay alert, right? Got to understand the limitations of the system.
Yeah.
And most importantly, you got to be ready to grab the wheel when things go haywire.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And the paper actually uses a real-world example to illustrate this point. And it's a chilling one, the 2010 flash crash.
Oh,
That was a wake-up call, my friend. A taste of what can happen when automated systems, even those designed with the best of intentions, start interacting with each other in unpredictable ways.
yeah.
Now imagine that same scenario, but with AI agents that are infinitely more complex, more interconnected than the trading algorithms that contributed to that crash.
Yeah, that's not a good picture.
Not a good picture at all.
Okay, so we've got malicious use, we've got over-reliance. There's one more risk that this paper discusses that I find particularly unsettling, and it's this idea of the ripple effect.
Ah, yes, the ripple effect.
As if things weren't complicated enough already. We're not just talking about the immediate consequences of an AI agent's actions, but the long-term, often unforeseen, ways they could, reshape our world.
Right, those unintended consequences. And, the paper uses this very poignant example, AI taking over hiring processes.
Okay.
On the surface, it sounds, efficient, maybe even objective, right?
Sure.
Remove human bias from the equation. But what if those algorithms, those AI agents doing the hiring, what if they're even slightly biased themselves? What if they're operating with incomplete data?
Right.
They could, without even meaning to, systematically exclude qualified candidates from entire industries. They could, unintentionally perpetuate the very inequalities they were designed to eliminate.
It's like we're trying to solve a problem, but we might be creating a whole new set of problems that we haven't even begun to anticipate.
Exactly. And it's not just job markets, right? We're talking about every aspect of our lives. Imagine AI agents curating our news feeds. Imagine them, filtering the information we see based on what they think we want to see, what they think is best for us. Or even, think about this, composing our emails, maybe even having entire conversations on our behalf.
Hold on. I'm not sure if I'm ready for an AI to be my ghostwriter just yet.
Now, on the surface, that might seem, oh, that's convenient, it's helpful, but what about the long-term impact on our critical thinking skills?
Right.
Our ability to form our own opinions, to even just communicate authentically.
It's like, what makes us human? Where's the line?
Exactly. And these are the ripple effects this paper is urging us to consider. Yeah? And then, just when you thought it couldn't get any more complex, the paper dives headfirst into this uncharted territory. Multi-agent interactions.
Oh boy, multi-agent interactions. I'm already lost. What happens when you have multiple AI agents, each with their own agendas, their own goals, all interacting in the same space?
So think of it like a swarm of bees. Right? Each bee has its own little task, but together they're working in this incredibly intricate dance to build a hive.
Right.
Now imagine those bees are actually sophisticated AI agents, each one with its own programming, its own objectives, and they're not just building a hive, they're interacting in ways that we can barely comprehend. The result, it's like emergent behavior, these unforeseen consequences that arise not from any single AI agent's actions, but from the complex interplay between them.
So we can't even predict it.
It becomes exponentially more difficult to predict outcomes, to understand the why or the how. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
And a little terrifying, I imagine.
A little terrifying, yes.
Okay, so deep breaths, everyone. Deep breaths. We've covered a lot of ground here. I don't know about you, but my head's spinning a little. We've got these incredibly powerful AI agents, Right.
Right.
On the verge of, well, some might say revolutionizing, others might say disrupting our world. But as we've been discussing, not without some potentially, let's just say, interesting, maybe even, yeah, scary consequences.
Unintended consequences, unforeseen consequences, definitely.
But here's the thing I appreciate about this paper. It doesn't just dump all this scary stuff in our laps and say, good luck with that. It actually wants to find
No,
solutions.
no, absolutely. It's a call to action as much as anything.
And one of the big ideas, the big themes that emerges, is this concept of increasing visibility into AI agents.
Transparency, accountability, getting a better look under the hood.
Exactly. But what does that actually mean in practice? How do we shine a light, so to speak, on these AI agents? How do we make their inner workings less of a black box?
Well, the paper gets pretty specific about this. It
Mhm.
lays out 3 core mechanisms for increasing visibility, and crucially, these aren't just some pie-in-the-sky ideas. We're talking about practical steps we can actually take to make these systems more transparent, more accountable.
Okay, so less talk, more action. I'm into it. Hit me with these
All
mechanisms.
right, so mechanism number 1, agent identifiers.
Agent identifiers. Okay, so are we talking about like giving each AI agent its own digital fingerprint, a way to tell them apart in the digital world?
You got it. Picture this. Every email, every social media post, even every line of code generated by an AI agent carries a unique identifier, a digital watermark, if you will, signaling its origin.
So if I'm, say, reading an article online, I could tell right away if it was written by a human journalist or if it was generated by some super smart AI.
Exactly. And taking it back to our hiring example, an applicant could know if they're being evaluated by a person or an algorithm.
Transparency. I love it. But it's not just about knowing that an AI is involved, right? It's
Yeah.
about what? Understanding its purpose, its capabilities, who even built the thing in the first place.
All of that. It's about creating a system of accountability, a way to trace an AI agent's actions back to its source.
Okay, so it's like a digital chain of custody for algorithms, a way to say, this AI agent, this came from here, this is what it's supposed to be doing, and if things go sideways, well, we know where, look, makes sense. That's agent identifiers. What about real-time monitoring? That sounds a little, I don't know, Big Brother, doesn't it?
I hear you, but it's important to make a distinction here. We're not talking about this constant surveillance, this Orwellian watching your every move type of thing. Instead, the paper proposes these automated systems that can flag potentially harmful behavior as it's happening, kind of like an early warning system for AI, you know?
So instead of waiting for something to go wrong and then trying to clean up the mess, we're proactively looking for signs of trouble, for any red flags in the AI's behavior that might suggest something's amiss.
Exactly. And the beauty of this real-time monitoring is that it allows for rapid response. If an AI agent starts going off the rails, maybe it's making decisions that could harm individuals, or it's, I don't know, manipulating financial markets in some unforeseen way, we can hit pause. We can intervene before any real damage is done.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see the value in that.
Mhm.
Prevention over cure, as they say. Now, the last mechanism, activity logs. So this is where we get into the nitty-gritty, right? Keeping tabs on what these AI agents are up to, even when they're not, you know, setting off any alarm bells.
Think of it like a flight data recorder for AI. Even when things seem to be running smoothly, we're still tracking the AI's every move, its decisions, its inputs and outputs, basically all the data it's using to, make those decisions.
So if something does go wrong, we've got this detailed record that we can go back and analyze, figure out how the AI got to where it did, and hopefully prevent similar incidents from happening again.
Exactly. And on top of that, these logs, they can be incredibly valuable for research purposes. They can give us this deeper understanding of how these AI agents learn, how they adapt, how they interact with the world around them.
Okay, so lots of potential benefits there.
Yeah.
But I do have to ask, and I'm sure it's on everyone's minds, what about privacy? Increased visibility is one thing, but doesn't all this monitoring, all this data logging sound a little, well, intrusive? Where do we draw the line?
You're right to raise that point, and the paper acknowledges that increased visibility can't come at the expense of individual privacy. It's all about finding that balance, that sweet spot, where we're keeping a close eye on the AI without, turning our world into some kind of surveillance state.
So being transparent about the trade-offs, making sure any data collection is done responsibly, ethically, with the proper safeguards in place.
Exactly. And there are technologies that can actually help us achieve this. The paper mentioned something called differential privacy, which allows us to analyze aggregate data to look at the big picture without compromising the privacy of individuals.
Okay, so we're talking about like being able to see the forest, but not the individual trees.
Mhm.
We can glean these broader insights from the data without being able to identify specific individuals within that data set.
On the money. We can track the AI's actions without, turning every single person into a data point. And this is where things get really interesting because the paper doesn't just stop at these technical solutions. It takes it a step further and asks this really thought-provoking question. How do we ensure responsible AI development when these agents aren't just being created by, big tech companies or giant research labs, but potentially by, well, anyone with a laptop and an internet connection?
That's a whole other can of worms, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've been talking about AI agents like these things that exist in some, rarefied air. But what happens when the tools to create them become so accessible that anyone can essentially build one in their basement?
And that's the reality we're facing. And the paper delves headfirst into this challenge of decentralized AI agent deployment. And it actually offers some really intriguing ideas. One approach it suggests is leveraging the role of compute providers. So we're talking about those companies, the big players, the ones that provide the infrastructure, the computing power for running AI in the first place.
So if a company like, say, Google or Amazon
Yeah.
sees that someone's using their platform to train or deploy a potentially risky AI agent, they could, what, step in, cut them off?
Exactly. It's like this built-in accountability mechanism.
Yeah.
Compute providers, they have a vested interest in making sure their platforms aren't being used for malicious purposes. They don't want to be, indirectly responsible for some AI going rogue. So they could play a really crucial role in promoting responsible AI development and setting some ground rules, if you will.
I like it. It's like responsible AI from the ground up. But what about those who, for whatever reason, don't play by the rules? Those who find workarounds, who operate in the shadows?
That's where the paper's other big idea comes in, using tools and services as gatekeepers. What if the providers of those essential AI tools, things like, I don't know, machine learning libraries, large language models, the building blocks of AI, what if they restricted access, made it so that only those who meet certain transparency and accountability standards could use their products?
So it's like creating an ecosystem where responsible AI development is rewarded, and those who try to circumvent the rules, well, they're essentially cut off from the resources they need to function.
Precisely. Starve the bad actors of the tools they need, and you create a powerful incentive for everyone to play by the rules.
And what I find so compelling about these ideas is that they don't hinge on, government regulation or some top-down control. They empower individuals and organizations to take ownership, to shape the future of AI in a way that aligns with our values. And that, I think, is the paper's most important message. This isn't just a conversation for, the policymakers and the tech gurus. This is a conversation we all need to be having.
100%. The future of AI, it's not some foregone conclusion. It's being shaped right here, right now, by the choices we make, the questions we ask, and yeah, the demands we place on the people creating these incredible technologies.
So to everyone listening, stay informed, stay engaged, and whatever you do, never stop asking. How can we ensure that AI is used for good? It's a question worth wrestling with, not just in the abstract, not just in the context of this paper, but in our daily lives as we navigate this increasingly complex, increasingly AI-driven world.
Beautifully said. The future is unwritten, and it's up to all of us to ensure that AI agents are a force for good, a force for progress in the world.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking the tough questions, and keep those AI agents in check.